People ask me all the time, Howie, are you Jewish? Are you Catholic? Are you Christian? Are you Protestant? To be honest with you, I'll simply let them know. I'm a Jedi.
What's going on? I'm BB Funerology, and this is my top 10 moments of Big Brother 6. Obviously, spoilers ahead, don't say I didn't warn you. And if you like this video, consider hitting that subscribe button, because I'm making a video just like it for every Big Brother season. And before we dive in, let's talk about some Big Brother 6. So season 6 was so great, really had it all, and was easily a top 5 season for me. There's a power struggle between the Sovereign Six and the friendship. There's drama, and I mean real drama, not just like bickering, but intense, heated, and in-your-face drama. It had the heroes, it had the villains, even if the villains didn't realize they were the villains. It had Ivette and Kaysar, some of arguably the most legendary cast members of all time. And pretty much the entire audience is rooting for Sovereign Six, which is super fun because it's always fun to root for that underdog. And the season was just so beautiful from start to finish. And it's one of those seasons where you just can't help but fall in love with the show, either for the first time or fall in love with it again. And now, without further ado, let's hop into the top 10. Number 10. So James and Eric are talking about the Iraq War. They're going back and forth debating the political reasons why we're at war. And Eric asks James, do you think Iraq is really better off now? James kind of redirects this question to Kaysar. And Kaysar says, no, it's definitely not. He has family in Iraq. And James says something pretty offensive to Kaysar.
I'd rather him be over there blowing people up than over here knocking down buildings.
Oh my, this is such bull, man.
It's not.
This is such bull. Let me tell you something, James. I thought you were an intellectual, but you're disappointing me right now.
So Kaysar sits down James and tells him some stories.
My aunt just died during this whole period right now. I think because of like diabetes or something really simple that you could have been cured, but she can't get to a hospital because of the
checkpoints or things like that.
Yeah.
It was just so weird talking to him, listening to these stories. It's one thing when you hear it on the news, but he doesn't want any loss of life because these are his people.
And Kaysar really opened up James's eyes, and I imagine he opened the eyes of a lot of Americans at the time. And come on, this is so on brand for Kaysar. This is why I, and I bet a bunch of others, fell in love with this guy. He plays the game hard, but he also takes the time to talk about some really serious and sensitive topics, and he's able to bring a new perspective to the table that not everyone has seen before. Number 9. So to set the background for this next one, Michael had been a little handsy with all the women in the house. He was just generally being too much. Eric, trying to speak for the women, tells him he needs to chill out. And Michael doesn't accept this, and he thinks Eric is exaggerating and just kind of making things up. And at one point, Michael makes a slight dig towards Eric's family, and it ends up getting back to him. Cut to one night, everybody's drinking a little bit. And Kaysar, being the awesome person he is trying to diffuse the situation. So he's talking to Ivette and Eric. But then Michael cuts in, and things blow up real quick.
You got a problem?
Yeah, I got a problem. What you gonna do about it, midget?
Not a thing, but what?
That's what I thought. You
go ahead.
Talk a lot and you can't act on it. You got a small penis.
Family.
Talk about your family. Come on, what you gonna do about it? You don't pose a threat to me, you midget.
You're going home.
He's going home. He's going home.
Everyone calm down. Everyone. Eric, come to the dining room right now. Michael, go to the storage room and wait.
But eventually, once they separate them, things calm down, and Ivette and Kaysar start talking. But then Kaysar interrupts Ivette one too many times, and then they blow up too.
You know what the problem is? That you have no respect for women. You have no respect for women. And they
Sit
don't
down.
get near me.
Sit down.
Everyone. I need everyone to go to a different place in the yard. Kaysar, hammock. Yvette, Jim, wait there.
Big Brother separates everyone into a bunch of different rooms. Once everyone cools off, they gather in the living room. Everyone's given an official warning, and things remain tense for the next few weeks, but at least people were on speaking terms. Number 8. Remember night moves from Big Brother 22? Well, this is a pretty big moment, that's why they brought it back. And while we're on the subject, they should have brought back more competitions from cool moments in Big Brother history. I really liked how they brought this one back, but there should have been a moment like this every week in the Big Brother 22 house, just saying. Anyway, Kaysar's HOH, and it was the Sovereign Six versus Maggie and Ivette, so it's basically 4 versus 2, and so everybody gets on the chessboard and you can only move like knights. Ivette is the first person to choose her spot, and then all 4 of the Sovereign Six set up blocking her spots, so she's only got like one spot she can move to. And then she moves to that spot, and then they all immediately block all her next moves, and after one move, Ivette is already out of the competition. And then immediately after, the Sovereign Six gangs up on Maggie, and she's out after a total of 3 moves. This is how you do this competition. Cody and Enzo, if you're paying attention, this is how you do it. But after the competition ends, Maggie pulls Kaysar's side. She thinks she's being targeted, but that's when Kaysar kind of breaks the news that Eric's the backdoor plan.
You're not the target. You were the bait.
Kaysar, you sealed my fate.
No. I sealed your partner's fate.
Number 7. So this next 2 to 3-ish weeks were absolutely insane. So it's week 5, Howie's the HOH, and Maggie's pitching to him that they should target James and Sarah, who are part of Howie's alliance, instead of the 2 sides targeting each other. She says, if you go for James and Sarah this week, we'll go for James and Sarah next week. As bad as this pitch sounds, I think part of the reason it landed was because in Big Brother 4, June and Allison, the floaters of the house, they made it to the end and one of them won. So I think the idea of floaters was really scary to the entire Sovereign Six alliance. But I don't think James and Sarah were floaters. They were firmly on the Sovereign Six's side. So this is a big tactical mistake. And Maggie somehow just honestly Jedi mind tricks him into putting up James and Sarah. Sarah and James, in my honest opinion, were 100% on Howie's side. Earlier that week, there was an HOH competition where if you got a trivia question right, you would eliminate someone out of the competition. And Sarah had 2 opportunities to eliminate people, and she chose Jennifer and Ivette from the friendship. So come on, she's on your side, Howie. And then a few weeks later, James ends up getting evicted, and Julia asks him, if Howie didn't put you and Sarah up, would you have stayed with him? And he says, yeah, 100%.
Now, when Howie was HOH, he nominated you and Sarah. Had he not done that, would you have stayed loyal to the Sovereign Six?
Completely. Yeah, that was one of the turning points, probably one of the biggest mistakes that he could have made in this game.
Number 6. So after week 4, they announce someone from the first 4 evicted is coming back. Well, first 3 apparently, because Ashley didn't hang around and sequester. And they tell the other house guests who are still in the house, go ahead and campaign for whoever you want to come back in. So they give them t-shirts and tie-dye and markers and all that. Everyone's campaigning for who they want to come back. Then they bring the original 3 house guests back. They tell them Eric and Kaysar are the 2 top vote getters. And then in a dramatic fashion, they reveal Kaysar is the one being voted back into the house. This is such an awesome moment. Howie and Janelle are so hyped that they end up knocking Kaysar to the ground by accident by hugging him. And then later on, they reveal that of 5 million votes, Kaysar got 82% of the votes. It wasn't even close. It was a blowout. And let's not act surprised. It's King Kaysar after all. Number 5. Oh man, this one's a doozy. It's the pressure cooker. So all you have to do is hold onto the button as long as possible. And forewarning, this comp lasts nearly the entire episode. Let's say this. Chef's kiss on doing this right after bringing someone back. If you're going to do a battle back, you need a competition like this right after for HOH, for whoever wants it the most can win it, because they're going to do everything to win it. So inside the pressure cooker, there are boxes inside with mystery prizes and punishments. And when you lose, you have to open one. Julie opens the first one on live TV as the competition begins, and a bunch of flies start swarming out. So they do a bunch of time jumps, and 5 hours in, no one has fallen. And Howie announces you're no longer allowed to sit or kneel. Somewhere after the 6-hour mark, Bo accidentally kneels, and so he drops out of the competition. But in this competition, you can't leave the pressure cooker when you lose. You only leave after the first 3 people have lost, and then again after 6 people have lost. So Bo opens his box, and it's a cocktail bar, which is amazing. Bo just got to have a drink after drink after drink. And you know when you're the sober person hanging around with someone who's drunk and they kind of get on your nerves? Yeah, now picture that, but you're stuck in a box holding a button. So people get pissed. Later on, Janelle is dancing and she accidentally lets go of the button. Future house guests, don't do this. Don't dance. Don't yell at people. Don't get distracted. But she did win a free Netflix subscription and a DVD player and a plasma TV, which really pissed people off. At the 9-hour mark, they announce you can't use your second hand. You can only use your first hand to hold the button. Ivette immediately messes this one up and uses her other hand to touch the box. She starts crying because she's really sad. And this makes James sad because he's out there playing for revenge, which after he sees Ivette crying, he thinks it's not a good reason, so he drops out of the competition. Honestly, this is super questionable because James is being targeted by everyone in the house at this point. which leaves Kaysar and Jennifer. Jennifer's crying at one point because she really wants to win, but she's faking it, which is kind of funny. She looks at the camera and winks at us to let us know it's all for strategy. Jennifer promises to Kaysar, "You'll be safe, and I'll use my sides as pawns, and James will be the backdoor plan." That's the plan. Kaysar reconfirms this at the 14-hour mark, and he drops out, and Jennifer wins after 14 hours. Whew. Number 4. So Jennifer realizes sometime after this competition ends that if she puts up 2 pawns from her side of the house, that the Sovereign Six has more votes than them, and that they would control how the week plays out. So pretty quickly, she breaks her promise of putting pawns up from her side and just puts up Janelle and Rachel. She confirms that James is still the backdoor plan, but everyone's pretty skeptical. And later, the veto is won by Rachel, and the plan at this point is still a backdoor James. But then Jen is talking to her alliance, and she brings them up all individually to ask who they think should be put up. And 3 out of 4 of their alliance members say they want Kaysar to go up. Only one of them says that they should stick with the James backdoor plan. So Kaysar's thrown on the block, and oh boy, does this house get nasty. After some drinking, Bo and Janelle really get into it.
Myself. Get out of here, yourself. Fire the hell, bitch!
It's so easy to screw with Bo because he's such a little bitch.
And then later, Howie really goes in on April, a little too far in my opinion.
Busto! The buxom blonde and the busted blonde, they're both up. Hey, I don't care, but can I call you Busto for short? I don't care if you want me. Instead of busted blonde, I'll just call you Busto.
Guys, y'all are so immature.
What about an ugly dog? I want a pepperoni pizza. Where can I get some pepperoni for it, huh? Woo!
And April's understandably really shook by this. And then Kaysar just ends up going home this week, just missing jury. Number 3. So it's right after Kaysar is evicted. The friendship completely broke their promises with the Sovereign Six. So tensions are high, and this HOH is super important. The HOH comes down to a tiebreaker, and with the tiebreaker, it's the person who comes closest without going over. And Janelle answers 300, and before revealing her answer, she does some correction and changes her answer to 275, and the answer was 285. So her original answer, 300, would have disqualified her for going over. This was super clutch. Janelle and Howie go crazy celebrating, and that's when Janelle says her iconic line, "Give me that key, bitch!" which prompts Jen to just throw the key across the backyard. Then they bring everyone inside and reveal it's a double eviction. Julie tells Janelle, "You have to do your nominations right now." And like a queen, getting revenge for her king, Janelle makes her nominations.
Who is your first nominee?
Jennifer.
Janelle? Who is your second nominee?
Maggie.
And then Julie signs off, and Janelle and Howie are celebrating, and Janelle says the most iconic line.
Bye-bye, bitches.
Careful, oh my God.
And later that week, Jennifer goes home. Number 2. So it's the final 4, and Janelle's the only one left from her alliance, and she wins HOH. So at this point, the friendship have to turn on each other. One of them is going to have to vote out one of the others. And then Ivette wins veto, so she's safe, and she's making the decision of who's going home that week. And the 3 friendship members are at a table, and April says,
"A lot of the decisions that I made in here are a lot of things that I did. I feel like I listened to you and did them because I know you're going to laugh.
I made you not like Janelle?
Can you listen to me?"
How dare you tell me that it's my fault and I had influence on you and what you did in this game? Aren't you 31 years old? Don't you know how to make your own decisions, blaming it on me, saying that I had an influence?
Janelle sees it at one point and just casually walks away. Yvette is pissed, and she says, "If this were the other way around and you won veto, you wouldn't be saying this. You'd say it was nothing personal. It's just a game." And I don't know if April had a fighting shot of staying before this happened, but she really dug her grave at this point. Number 1. Oh man, this one was such a heartbreaker. It's the final HOH, and it comes down to a tiebreaker between Yvette and Janelle. And they actually answered the question exactly the same, which brought them to a second tiebreaker. They asked them, "How many hours have you lived in the Big Brother house?" And it comes down to a 25 difference between their answers. And if Janelle won this and went to the final 2 with Yvette, I think Janelle probably would have won the game. I think Janelle would have had Howie, Rachel, and James's votes from her alliance. And I think from the blow up the week before, I think she would have had April's vote too. So I think Janelle could have taken this home if she just answered 26 lower. But in the long run, maybe it was better that she lost, because if Janelle won the game, maybe she doesn't come back for All-Stars. Maybe she doesn't come back for BB14 or BB22 either. So I guess I'm glad this happened, even though it was so damn hard to watch. So that was my top Big Brother 6 moments. Were there any moments you think I should have included, or anything on the live feeds that happened that I missed? Let me know down in the comments section below. And be sure to subscribe, because I'm making a video for every Big Brother season. Catch you guys on the next one. Peace.
Jedis don't have sex?
Jedis don't have sex.
Yeah, you tell Anakin that.
Yeah, but he went to the dark side.